Hi, it's Marisol, your rebel guide to living a life of freedom abroad, bringing you an episode of Roaming the Now, where entrepreneurs, coaches, and mentors come together to give you a behind the scenes look at the real and raw experience of setting out to a new country and building a life and business abroad. If you're curious about your unique personality while living abroad, take the Living Abroad Persona quiz at quiz.connectwithmarisol.com to discover your unique living abroad persona type. Make sure to like and subscribe to Roaming the Now. Enjoy! Hello, and welcome to another episode of Roaming the Now. This is your host, Marisol, and today I have Allison Forrest joining us from Germany. Hello.
Hi, wonderful to be here.
So good to have you here. So I'm really excited to talk about today's topic, which is about should you quit your job if you're experiencing burnout? Because Allison has a very unique experience with this, and I think her perspective will be really valuable to just give some insight and perspective on whoever's really exploring this. But before we jump into this, I would love for you to share a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, and just your journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not giving any advice for people to quit their job, but yeah, it's just my journey actually through burnout and out the other side finally. Yeah, so I'm Alison Forrest. I'm an Australian. This is my accent. I've been living in Germany though for about 10 years, 11 years. I moved here mid 2012. I've been in funds management and investment banking for over 17 years in Australia and New Zealand and in Germany, and then all the way across Europe. And I was managing people and teams and on boards and CFO positions of really large projects. I spent some time in Taiwan as well, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I am now a leadership and career development coach for women in particular and emerging talent. So I really coach 95% women on leadership and their career. So whether that's finding their purpose and passion or, looking to change careers potentially, I do all of that with my clients and I absolutely love it. I made the decision to do that in 2019 and just haven't looked back. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing the snippets of the journey. So if we're thinking about burnout and just kind of your experience with that, and also how the fact that like your job did bring you abroad, right? Like your job actually originally brought you abroad.
Yeah.
Um, why don't we talk a little bit and explore that?
Yeah. I mean, I've always loved living overseas. So, like, my decision to move to Germany in 2012, like, that was, because I just wanted to explore Europe because I just spent all of my holidays and all of my time traveling over here. So, I knew from past experiences that I loved living overseas. I'd lived in Switzerland before, in England. So, I knew I was up for the challenge. So I moved over here and then I learnt German and I found some amazing friends as soon as I moved here, like literally in the first week. I was so lucky. So I had a really good, strong support base in Germany. Absolutely love them still to this day. They're still around. They're expats, a lot of them, but they're still around in Germany. So yeah, I was working for about 6 or 7 years. And my last job was in investment banking around Europe. So it was always pretty high stress. There's lots of travel. So Monday to Friday, I was traveling like every single day, all the way around Europe for board meetings and other meetings. And my team was in London and Edinburgh. So I was always flipping back and forth between those guys. And I was always getting more and more work. So, with investment banks, you're successful at one thing and they're like, hey, Allison, we've got this other project. Do you want to do that one as well? And this one as well, and this one as well. So I was loading up, but I actually really enjoyed myself. I could kind of take a step back and say, this is really cool. I'm doing really interesting things. I could, do whatever I wanted really. Like it was a very entrepreneurial sort of atmosphere. So I was loving it, highly stressed. And like weekends, I would just kind of dive into my bed and not come out for hours and hours. But at the end of the day, I could say, yeah, this is really cool. And then because it was all going so well, I thought, what's the next challenge? What's the next step on the career ladder? And that was when I put my hand up for a really significant role in Taiwan. So I was with the same company, but with different people. And unfortunately for me, that turned out to be a really toxic work environment. So there was some really micromanagement there. So coming from an entrepreneurial mindset to extreme micromanagement. I didn't have any of my friends there. I'd just broken up with my boyfriend to move overseas. It just sort of all started to come apart, really. So what was flirting with burnout, that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back and kind of sent me off into this negative spiral when I was over in Taiwan, unfortunately. So that was a pretty heavy time in my life. I'd never experienced anything like it, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you like work through burnout? And I also just want to say, like, I think this is really important to note that like not all moves go well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they had in the past, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do this. What's next? It'll be fine." It always has been fine. But, yeah, this time, unfortunately, it wasn't.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like we have this idea of like, oh, like, you have a good streak, but I think this is really good to know that like, no, like not all expat moves go well. Sometimes you move and you're like, wow, okay, this actually is not the most ideal environment for me. Like this was cool, exciting, right? But it didn't
Yeah.
work out. But you're back in Germany, so I always say you can always go back to the places that are supportive to you and that you like.
Yeah.
But circling back to burnout. So when you found yourself in this place of you're in a foreign country, it was not the exciting, positive expat experience that you were used to, and you were, in this space. Like, how did you begin to work through it? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I really didn't recognize myself quite quickly, in the first couple of months. I was having a little bit of a tough time, and then, like I'd never had depression before or anything like that, and so I'm not sure what it really looked like or what it was really like. And my burnout hasn't been diagnosed, but now I've been doing research and looking back and going, "Holy cow, that's exactly what I was experiencing." So it was very much, I was making mistakes all the time, really, really errors that I would look back on the next day and go, "How on earth did I come up with that answer?" And as CFO, you can't make any sort of mistakes. And I wasn't going out with any of the people on my team. So there were really nice, supportive people there. But I almost became paranoid about them as well. So I wasn't going out with them, and I'm a very sociable person. So I would just sort of stay at home. The country and the people there, the locals, they're, beautiful landscape, beautiful people, amazing food. But I just wasn't going out of my apartment at all. I was just staying in every single weekend. I wasn't exercising at all. I was eating everything in sight. I was drinking too much alcohol, and just my body was falling apart as well as my mind. And then my self-confidence was just spiraling. I felt as though I couldn't do anything right. Everyone was against me. And these are feelings that I had never experienced before. So it was quite shocking to go through something like that, because I'm usually extroverted, confident, do anything, it'll all be fine, everything is figure outable, until it wasn't. And I guess I'm really lucky, because in that time I had to travel back quite often to Europe still for board meetings. And so I could spend a week or two in Europe away from that environment and talk to my friends and cry on their shoulders. And they would say, "Ali, I've never seen you like this. Oh my goodness." But I could talk to them and sort of say, "I need to get out, but I don't know what to do." Because I sort of discovered now that when you're in burnout, the chemicals in your brain change. And so it's like this dampening cloud over you. So you can't see the opportunities in front of you. You can't see a way out. And you think you're stuck in this sort of vortex of negativity. So when I was over in Europe, I was actually able to move away from that. So the dark clouds started to lift a little bit, and I had my really supportive friends there with me, so I could start talking to them about, what could possibly come next. And that was when I had a meeting with a coach just by chance over in Hong Kong, and I told him about the problems I was having, and he just validated everything I was feeling, just so simply. And I just thought, oh my goodness, like this is normal to be feeling this way in this type of situation. And from then on, I just thought, okay, I need to do something about this. And I want to become a coach myself, because I don't want any other women feeling as helpless as I did right then. And so whenever I went back to Europe after that, I would talk to my friends and say, okay, so what might this coaching business look like? Like little steps forward of, what could happen, what could be next. So that when I did say, all right, I'm out, I did have something to look forward to, that could sort of help me pull me out the darkness that had engulfed me over there. So that was kind of the start of really getting out of that. And I just knew that I had to leave because, my happiness was worth more than anything, anything more than my 17 years of career, anything more than, living overseas. I'd find a way back somehow. Everything was figure outable, but I just had to get out of there if I wanted to be happy. So that is how I just made the 180-degree move into coaching. It shocked me. I'd never thought of being a coach before that moment.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I feel like a lot of what you said is really relatable. I burnt out when I was working in tech in San Francisco in a startup environment. And honestly, like I really 100% you're saying, I didn't see the possibilities. I just was like, I need to get out of here. I realized I was in a toxic work environment, similar to what you said. But it was like, coaching, like as I always say to people, like I really actually had never hired a coach or experienced coaching
Yeah,
until I
me too.
actually went to coaching school. And
Me too.
I always tell everyone like, yeah, I know. Like they're like, how did you become a coach? Like, did you work with a coach? I go, actually, I decided that I wanted to help people who were, similar to me, right? And that's evolved as I've grown on my journey. But I was figuring out like how can I help people, right? Because I had started off with yoga teacher training, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to help people like more from a like conscious, standpoint, like, physical movement is beautiful. And I think it's like a first step, right? Like we cultivate that mind body connection through
Mhm.
the physical movement. And then we're ready to move more into like the emotional, like psychological aspects, at least in my experience. But I've also like learned that people in burnout, when you are so disconnected, because it's like a disconnect, like there is a little bit of a period where you need to find something to connect yourself with yourself. And that can look like physical movement. It can look like art. It can be anything that kind of just really connects you with you, and then you move into that next step. And I was just asking people like, how do I help people without having to go to school to be a therapist? That was literally the question that I asked for like 3 months. And then coaching found me, and then I was like, okay, I guess this is the way. And it's been a really cool involvement. And to your note of what you're saying, like I don't necessarily think you have to quit your job. I think this is something that, when you're feeling burnt out, you really kind of just, when you really uncover like who you are, what's important to you, and what work environment you want to be in, it actually doesn't necessarily look like quitting your job or quitting 9 to 5. It may look like just putting yourself in a different work environment. Like that was something I really um, learned from career coaching early on, is it's not always necessarily about quitting. It's just about reevaluating and getting really clear and being able to like express what you need. And is that possible in where you work, or like, is it not possible? And then using that as that information to move forward. And it's been interesting because it really is just the burnout clouds your judgment so
Mm.
much that you can't think clearly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it can affect you for a long time as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of I realized that happiness, and trusting my team as well was really important to me. So this micromanaging wasn't working. So, I sort of said, okay, that's it. And I came back to Germany, and I thought, okay, maybe I can find another job in the same company. So I had a little look, but it's just like, I need to take a step back for a little while. I thought at that time I wanted to be a coach, but it's like, I need to take a step back and just figure out what it is that I want to be doing. I need to get back to normal because I was not my normal self. So as you said, I took about 6 months out, and I was just going on walks and exercising more. And, I found an apartment and got a treadmill and, all of that kind of stuff. Went walks on the river here, and, met up with friends, and just calmed down a bit for a while. And then I thought, yeah, I need some coaching, because yeah, like you, I'd had that one experience with that coach who kind of convinced me, without trying, to become a coach. But before that, I'd never even read a self-help book. I'd sort of tried reading one or two, and it's like, this is not resonating. This is not for me. It's like, what are they trying to tell me? I need an answer right now. This is too much. So I'd never been into it. And then I started studying coaching, and within a couple of months, my brain was changing. Like I could feel myself getting much calmer and, more introspective, and like very much into metacognition, thinking about thinking, why am I thinking like this? Getting curious, trying not to judge myself so much, because I was judging myself so much, particularly because of this burnout experience. It's like, could I have done something different? Should I have done something differently? So when I started studying coaching, it really became evident to me that this was the right path for me. I sometimes think, maybe I should go back into finance, because I do miss, some of the buzz and the people and working in big corporations and things like that. But I guess now as a coach, I've sort of been exploring the idea, and it's like, okay, was that really a strength? Like I'd spent 17 years doing this finance stuff, and now I think it was a skill rather than a strength, in terms of like a strength is something that you do that gives you strength. And I don't think finance ever really gave me strength. It was a skill. I could do it all day long, but it never gave me energy the way coaching does. So it's fascinating to kind of look at the journey that your mind goes through and your discovery goes through, as you change jobs and just try to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life. It's a big question.
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up, because today I was like kind of sitting in reflection, because I've been doing some consulting work for an organization, and it's for a corporate organization. And so it's like the corporate, organization. It's the way everything runs. And, there's been some things coming up where I've been like making mistakes. And, as a coach, as someone in the learning mindset, I'm like, okay, like what is there to learn about this? And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, this is actually, because I was feeling a little frustrated, and I was like, oh, well, this is actually what happened to me all the time when I was in the corporate world. Like, I am not the best at super detail oriented spreadsheet, like mundane tasks. That's not where I shine. I really have to try hard. And it really kind of frustrates me, because it's just like, it's not my area of genius. Like, my area of genius is working with people, facilitating, creating experiences, supporting, guidance, teaching. And so, as I was sitting in the moment of like holding space for all this emotion, I was like, oh, well, this is actually like, it was a reminder of like why I don't thrive in a corporate 9 to 5 space, is because there are all of these like tasks, put on me that I'm not great at. Like, it could be a skill, right? It could be a skill, but it's actually not that skill that I want to develop, because it doesn't
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, we'd all be doing jobs that just use our strengths as much as possible. 90% of the time, we use our strengths. There's a great little exercise that you can do. Marcus Buckingham, who had a lot to do with like the strengths finder, I think he calls it the red thread. And so you get a piece of paper, left hand side, you say, okay, love it. And then right hand side, loathe it. And for a week, write down the activities that you do in your job that give you energy, that you love, like you lose time and you just feel empowered afterwards, and I could do this all day, oh my goodness, you get goosebumps. And then down the other side, it's like loathed it. I was putting it off, I was procrastinating like a demon, I tried to delegate everything, or I just deleted it all and put it in the bottom drawer. And yeah, we all have stuff like that, admin bits and pieces, but hopefully, we're doing more things in the loved it column than not. And if you're not, then maybe have a little look at your career.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because that is really insightful. Like, you call those registering exercise?
Yeah, the red thread. Yeah, yeah.
Red. Okay, great. So red thread for a week track. What do you love doing? What energizes you? And then on
Yeah.
the left column, what do you not love doing? And I think that this is really powerful, because if you're in a job, you can kind of use that to just really keep track of, helping you gain insight on what to do
Yeah.
next. Also, if you're an entrepreneur, can help you get insight on what do you want to delegate? Because there are actually some things in my business I delegate to someone else, because I'm like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Help me, please. I'm happy. I'm happy to pay you to do this, because I know this is not the thing that I want to do. Like, let me focus on my genius.
Absolutely. But it's also good for career development. So, like, if you're getting burnout from a particular position, and then you do this loved it, loathed it, is there a way that you can tweak your position or find something else in that company, as you were talking about before, that you can use more of this loved it side, and kind of develop your ideal role within a company that you love, but you just had a tough time in? Because when we love things, they give us energy. It's hard to get really burnt out if we love things. Because a lot of the time burnout is what's going on in our head. It's the
Mhm.
stories that we're telling ourselves, it's the pressure we put ourselves under, it's the judgment, it's all that kind of stuff that really can really bring us down. So yeah, hopefully we can lift ourselves up with this energizing, loved it red thread. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And on that night, like as I've been experimenting with this and everything, just like giving yourself permission to do the things that you love and really building something around the things that you love is possible. Like you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to forever force yourself to do the things that you actually don't want to do that don't energize you. And
Yeah.
the minute you can slip into just, I'm going to give my permission to really focus my energy on the things that energize me. That's really when I feel like everyone gets into that zone of genius or like the magic or like you can call it the quantum leap. Like that's
Yeah.
what happens is when you really just, hey, I get to do the things that I love and it's going to be a journey. And it's not always going to be straightforward, but I'm really just going to like focus my energy
Yeah, absolutely. Love
on.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be so easy to know what we don't like, but it's really hard sometimes to find out what we do like. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, giving that a go and some thought is a nice start. Particularly if you have been through burnout, you need somewhere positive and empowering to start because it can take some time. It took me like 18 months before I started talking about my feelings about burnout and failure with my coach because I just didn't want to face them. There was this dark shadow at the corner of my eye. And I thought, how can I become a leadership coach for women when I failed? And there was this big failure shadow out the corner of my eye. I didn't want to look at it until, a coach said, what would it look like to actually bring that closer to you and, explore it a bit more, get curious. And, how could you use that knowledge and that information now to help other people in your coaching practice, for instance? So sometimes what we think is a weakness can actually turn into a strength as well. You never know where it's going to come from. So always be on the lookout. Always be on the
Yeah.
lookout.
Yeah. No, on an episode that is part of season one, I had a guest talk about what is shadow work, and she was sharing how shadow work is actually your untapped potential. It's actually like your shadows are a guide,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
your potential. And it's just really powerful. And I always share this with everyone. Like shadow work is quite literally the work that has transformed my life, the way that I see myself, my relationship with others. It's quite transformational. But we don't like you really don't want to touch it, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's like the shadow is dark and it's sticky and it's icky and it's uncomfortable. But
What
it's
am I
like,
going to uncover?
yes, but on the other side of that is really that it's your untapped, it's your potential. It's the untapped potential. It's like the unique thing. Like I feel like you came here to shine or do. Like it's really powerful. But as you said, it takes time. Like you're not gonna like. I feel like when it comes to my journey of shadow work, like I only really, really started focusing on it last year, and that was maybe 2 years past coach training, maybe like a year. Like it was a while because I didn't want to see I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to work with it. But now on the other side, I'm like, okay, that's why I always tell everyone just like respect your journey and like respect your timeline. When it's time to work on it, you do. But when we try to like force that personal development process, it can get kind of like mushy.
Yeah, everything happens exactly when and how it's supposed to happen. So you shouldn't feel guilty about, I procrastinate too much because I'm scared. It's okay. You're human. But try to get around to it some stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Allison, for coming in and sharing your perspective and your journey on just expat life, career, and burnout. And just to close things out, I would love for you to just give a piece of advice to any expats that may be listening that are experiencing burnout right
Oh, gee. I guess I would say, yeah, recognize it for what it is and, know that it's not your fault. It's a natural thing that happens to a lot of people, and know that you're going to be okay. There is, light at the end of the tunnel. You need to do what feels best for you, and try to talk to somebody about it, whether that's a coach or just your best friend who will listen, so that you can actually see that there is light at the end of the tunnel and slowly work your way towards that, because it can feel really like you're alone if you're struggling. But if you just have someone who will listen and show you that there is a different perspective, and just look over here, there's something to look forward to, that can really change your outlook and help you make slow steps towards recovery, I guess you could call it. Yeah.
No, it really is. Slow steps towards
Yeah.
recovery.
And there is beauty on the other side as well.
There is.
I wouldn't be here had I not experienced that. So, yeah.
Very true. Thank you so much, Allison, for coming and sharing. Until next time, this is your host, Marisol, signing off. I will make sure to drop Allison's links in the description so that any of you who want to reach out to Allison and connect with her are able to do so. So until next time, this is your host, Marisol, signing off from Rome. Bye. Thanks for catching this episode of Roaming the Now. If you have not already, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to discover your unique personality while living abroad, visit quiz.connectwithmarisol.com. And as always, wherever you are in the world, I hope you are enjoying Roaming the Now.